welcome to, I think this is the fifth office hours. And today I have Mike Burgee with me. He's going to be co-hosting. We're going to be talking about Claris Connect. And we also have Ryan Klenk. He's one of our senior team lead developers. He's going to be answering the chat. So if you've got a question about anything that's going on, throw it in the chat and we'll grab it. And there's a few people. Maria, hopefully you guys have met her. She's responsible for licensing and hosting. And then Pratt Hinn is our team lead. Got Ryan McTeer in here. He's one of our developers. And also Patrick Briggs is in here as well. So without further ado, let's bebop into the housekeeping. Hopefully everybody by now, we've done enough of this COVID remoteness that you all know how to use the chat or the hand raise or whatever the story might be. Again, this is meant to be a user group format, not a one-way webinar. So throw yourself on camera if you want. Put questions in the chat. I am recording this, so I'll send it out in the follow-up as well. And that is pretty much it. I want to launch our first poll about Claris Connect. As a little background, just in case you all didn't know, back in the way back, FileMaker was part of Claris. It was a product, a line of different apps. They condensed it all down to just FileMaker. They got rid of some of the word processing in Excel and things like that, and actually changed their name to FileMaker Inc. Not this past Engage, but the very last DevCon, FileMaker Inc. rebranded themselves as Claris. They kind of went back to the future. And the reasoning for that was that they are expanding their brand, their corporate brand, not to just be FileMaker, but to be a lot of low code, no code tools for the citizen developer. So people, the average person can experience coding and take advantage of automation. So one of the things that they, one of the products that they picked up was actually Claris Connect, and the poll is coming through, and if I share the results, I think that the most significant thing from a high-end 80,000 foot view, Claris Connect does not rely on FileMaker at all. It's an independent product. It works super well with FileMaker, but you don't need FileMaker in order for Claris Connect to function. It's another club in the tool bag of Claris. So we've got Claris as the company, we have Claris Connect as one of the products, we have FileMaker as the other, and if you were on the FBA, Claris is interested in evolving themselves into more of these low code, no code type solutions. So without further ado, my co-host for this is Mike Burgee. Mike was on I think the alpha, or what was the super secret term that you were on, Mike? With the
alpha and beta.
Okay, so both.
Alpha is super early release, like before they're ready to actually turn it into a product, and then beta testing is when they're getting ready to go to market.
Okay, awesome. So you were
Yep.
there when Claris Connect wasn't cool, is basically what you're telling me.
I was there before it was called Claris Connect. It was a product called Stamplay that was developed by a company out of Italy, and FileMaker acquired the Stamplay business and redeveloped the product from the ground up in it's kind of a different platform, but kind of the same as a cloud application, SaaS application. And then I'm going to actually stop sharing the poll because it's showing up at my middle of my screen. So Let me resume my share here. So Claris Connect is it's a platform that's designed to give you flow-based programming. And what flow-based programming means is it's essentially a workflow process. So it's a number of steps that you want to couple together and put together to complete a task. So maybe you have new client onboarding for your company, or maybe you're hosting events and you have a registration process and you want to workflow that process so that you can automate the steps. So if I have event registrations now, maybe I'm receiving an email from somebody that says, I want to buy tickets to your event. So then I'm sending them an email that says, okay, go register for your event here. And then I'm receiving an email when they register that says this person registered. And then I'm adding them to my database, typing them in. And then maybe I'm sending them a confirmation with their ticket numbers. So flow-based programming lets you automate each one of those steps together so that you have a complete automated workflow or a pipeline or a flow. Different businesses in this space that offer flow-based software will have different terminology. So it's a workflow pipeline, it's a flow, it's an automation. But the purpose of flow-based programming is to give non-developers and developers as well a method where they can connect all of these dots together step by step, passing the information from one step to the other, and allowing for that process to be automated so that it removes the need for all of those manual interactions. So aside from just connecting the dots, there's also logic you can build in as well. And when you build in logic to this, you get what's called if this, then that programming. So if this, then that programming is based on if this action happens, then I want to do this as a result of that. So if you go to Claris's website, Claris Connect is just a top level link up here. You can sign up for a free trial. I believe you get a 14-day free trial. And it's got a number of different connectors out of the box that it works with. But also the top selling point of this platform, Claris Connect, versus other platforms like Zapier or Microsoft Flow or Amazon, I forget what it's called, Auto Apps or something like that. You know, there's a bunch of apps entering the space right now, but Claris's main selling point is that it also works with your FileMaker stuff as well. And it works with FileMaker Cloud, it works with FileMaker Server, it works as its own on-premises agent, which we'll kind of touch on later. But the other main selling point of Claris Connect is that it's super easy in comparison to some of those other ones as well. It's a basic point and click interface that allows you to couple together these things. So the demos I've prepared for you, they aren't really prepared at all. I'm just going to build some stuff and show you how it works. So
Awesome.
We'll show you.
So
kind of
stupid
how
question,
easy
Mike. Do you need a server for this? What's the requirements for IT? Do you got to go talk to your IT department about any infrastructure?
So out of the box, the regular version of Claris Connect is a SaaS, software as a service web app. So it works in connect.claris.com. You go and log in. You need a FileMaker ID, which I have attached to my account. It also supports multiple clients. So you can add me as a developer to your Claris Connect account so that we can set up stuff for you. And then you can switch between different accounts that you're connected to. Okay. So it normally works on projects. So when I log into Claris Connect, I'm going to have different projects in here. For us, that might just mean different FileMaker systems we're connecting to, or different clients that we're servicing. But for here, I've set up an office hours project. Now, inside of each project, you're going to have different flows. And flows are the chains of actions and reactions, the if this, then that chains that we're going to do. You're also going to have a history of your flows as they execute, as things happen in Claris Connect. You're going to have a history that you can come in here and look at. And then you're also going to have connected apps in here. So these are apps that I've connected to so that I can flow the information between these different places. So I've connected my FileMaker development server, and I've connected my Trello account. And we're going to show you how that stuff works. So the development of flows is super easy. You just go in and create a new flow. And the first flow we're going to create is actually a webhook API for contacts. So last month, Ryan was talking about APIs, how to consume APIs with FileMaker, but also briefly touched on how to set up APIs for FileMaker so that if I want to offer an API to my FileMaker application, how would I do that? So Claris Connect actually makes that pretty easy to do because it has this webhooks feature. So remember, we're doing if this then that. So we want an action to happen that's going to kick off this process. So the action we're going to set up is called a webhook. And a webhook is just, it's a URL or it's a chunk of web code somewhere that's just waiting for somebody to say, to send it some information. So it's not all, it's always there, but it's not always running. When you send information to it, it'll start running that code and it'll process that information and do something with that. So I'm going to say for my webhook, I want it as an incoming request. I can choose a webhook or I can create a new webhook. I'm going to do live demo webhook. It's going to create that webhook for me. Of course, now that I'm hosting the meeting, it's going to go really slow about it. Not work. If not, I'll just choose my existing one.
It's trying.
I know, right? Watch, like my internet was out on Friday, so I'm like jinxing myself, and Time Warner is over there with the bolt cutters again, cutting off my connection.
The third law of demos.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just start over again. Let's try this again. Webhooks, incoming. I'm just gonna, it actually created it. It just didn't refresh. So here's my webhook URL here. So now it's saying that I need to send an HTTP request to this. So when I'm setting this up, I'm going to need a program to be able to send information to this webhook so that I can start planning it out and connecting the pieces. So I use a free utility called Postman. And what Postman allows me to do is it allows me to post or send in form information over to this URL that it just gave me. And I've just got some basic JSON in here. It's just a common way of sending information back and forth. FileMaker supports JSON as well now. And this is pretty readable, right? It's got my name, my company, my email, salutation, job title, and stuff in here. So I'm just going to send that. And when I send it, I'll actually get a response back from Claris Connect here that has some stuff in here. So it says, there's the webhook ID and some of the other information around it.
So what's the practical use of this, Mike? Like you would have a web page with that would intake contact information? Would that be kind of a use case?
I would provide this webhook URL to another developer for them to be able to send me information. So I'm setting up an API for my FileMaker custom app through Claris Connect.
So they could use
without having to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let me talk. Without having to give that other developer full access to the data API and then train them on how to use the FileMaker data API. We can give them a simplified API that only has the endpoints that I want them to use and is expecting the data to come in a specific format. So FileMaker's data API, which Claris Connect is actually built on top of, is everything. So like I can go to a layout, I can perform a script, but I have to command it for each level of those steps. So this this webhook takes out the need for me to do those steps. So now that I've posted that information, you'll see that this button lights up. I can save this trigger. So that's the trigger. This has triggered me to, to do something. So now I'm going to add an action. So I just hit the plus up here, add an action, and I'm going to say that, okay, I want it to do something with my Claris FileMaker server. I'm going to say, okay, I want to create a record. I could pass all of the data to a script as well, or I could create a chain of events. Let's say I want to find a record first, and then if that record exists, then I want to do something. So let's actually do that. We've got some time, right? I'll do the little more complicated. Well, I'll do the basic one now. We can modify it later. So I'm going to say create a record. I've already connected my FileMaker server, so I can select it here. And that connects me to a specific file. So I'll choose a layout name here. And by the way, this is the file we're dealing with right here. I'm actually going to delete that record in here because it actually sent it in. So it's just the basic FileMaker contacts file that we've hosted. So I'm going to say I want to use the contacts detail layout. And then for each one of these fields that Claris Connect automatically reads the fields that I've got on that layout, and it puts it here and says, okay, now what do you want to fill out in this when I create that record? So I'll say that in my incoming request in the website, I want to put in the website. In the company, I want to put in company. In the email, I want to put in email. And you can see it shows me the information that I sent as an example of my information. And I'm just pointing, clicking. I'm not doing any coding at all. I just have to go through and figure out what goes where. And I can create a combination of things too. So if I want to concatenate together stuff right here, like fname equals this, and then input my first name after that, it'll actually string together that text for me with the dynamic form information. So I don't have to do calculations later on. And then salutation in that last one. So I'll save that. And then that's it. That's a basic flow. So now you'll see right now it's disabled. I don't have to save anything aside from what I've already done. So I'm just going to enable this. And now I'm going to keep this up over here side by side. And we're going to go back in here. And I'm going to just send the same information again to that webhook now. And now that it's active, it's going to run and it's going to create that record over here for me. So it input the company, it input the website, it concatenated together that fname for me in here and created that record. And now if I go back to here, I have a history tab and I can look at all of the times that this flow has been called. So, and it will show me each step, like this was the request that the webhook received. This is the response that was sent back to the requester. This is the result of creating that record. This was the response that came back from FileMaker when I executed that data API. And you can actually see what data API URL it used. So this actually helps me as a developer if I'm going to use the data API to be able to kind of see how these data API URLs are formatted. So when I start making my own requests later on, it does that. So that's webhooks, so that's one way to use it. So let's say I want to automate some information. So I'm going to go back to flows. So we got this flow here. We're going to create another flow here, and let's call this flow scheduled task. So one of the other triggers that it offers for you is there's all sorts of app triggers in here. So you can do things like if a document is uploaded to box.com, or if I receive a new email, or if I get a new Slack message, or if I get a new text message with Twilio, or if I get a new payment with Stripe. You know, there's all kinds of action triggers in here. But for this one, I'm going to click a schedule. Because I want to schedule a task to run. And let's say that I want a custom schedule. And this links you actually to a cron tab, and it's 121 now. I'm going to have this run at 125. So I'm going to paste that schedule in there. And I'm going to say we're on Eastern time. So I'm scheduling this to run specifically at 125. So at 125, Claris Connect is going to run this action. And let's say the action I want to run is executing a script. And I want to choose a script out of here. And I want to say, let's run this on the contacts list view. And let's do get today's registrations. And I'm not going to pass a parameter because it doesn't need a parameter. So I'm going to save that. So there's a button up here called review and test. And if I click review and test, it's going to run that action so I can get the actions of it. So test the action. So you can see this is the result of the script. And what this script does is it's going to get a it's going to get something for me. It's going to get a list of things. So if I look at this script, it's just a very basic thing that searches for contacts that were created today, then puts them together in a list, and then sends that list back as JSON with the current date as well. So now that I've tested that out, I can do another action here. And I'm going to do something on Trello. So on Trello, I'm going to create a card with my connected Trello account. The board is new client board. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my freezer column. The name of the card is going to just be daily contacts list. I'm trying to finish this up really quick so that I can get it before it runs.
It's beat the clock, man. It's the red wire. No, the black wire.
I need to do one more. Shoot, I need to do one more here. I need to do JSON first. So my response coming back from FileMaker is I need to convert my Claris, my script result to JSON so that I can use it. So this converts it to JSON. All right, I've got a minute to go. So create a card, daily contacts list, and I'm going to concatenate in the date so that it gives that. And then the description of the card, I'm going to grab the contacts out of the JSON, and I'm going to save this. So at 125 in a couple minutes here, it should do this. Let me pause my screen, and I'm going to open up Trello.
You got to enable it.
Client board. Oh, I do have to enable it. That was a good catch. So I've enabled it, so it'll run here in 30 seconds. All right, so you see right now there's nothing in the freezer. 20 more seconds to go. So this schedule you can set to run on a cron schedule, so it can run every day at a specific time. It can run, you know, this little guru site lets you set you know, any sort of specific schedule with cron. It's super specific. Or you can have it just run hourly, daily, weekly, monthly out of the box. So that gives you the abilities to do that. So it should have run, or it should be running. Let's see. Did I set it right? 125. Hopefully. I wonder if it didn't run because I was messing around with it. So let me put in 126 in here and we'll try again. And this time I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to sit here on the history tab.
Did you copy the 126 into the schedule step?
Yeah, I mean,
oh, yeah, you did.
This is...
Okay, my bad. You're so fast, Mike.
You have to be.
We need
dealing with,
we need vapor trails so that we can follow along.
That's the right board. Let me just double check, and maybe not everything else was done here. Contact list, get today's registrations, convert, that does the response script result, create a card, board, new client board, freezer, contacts list, save. Let's try this again. I think it was, oh, I didn't finish it in a minute. Let's do 128. It should be 128, right? Oh, you know, killing myself over here. 1328, because we're in 24-hour time because we're in cron, right? So
I'd like to point out that Darren Quick, who is the BAM for our area, I work with him pretty much every day. He just sent me a side text that said AM PM. So I'm officially giving him the development crown, the development troubleshooting crown for the office hours today. That's funny, man.
I would have figured it out tomorrow morning when it ran at 1:27 in the morning. And, all right, so
that's
there,
hilarious.
if you saw it, just popped up there, daily contacts list. So I've got the daily contacts list in here for everything that was added. And it automatically created that Trello card for me. So this is a way where you could make a daily report. And like the thing to think about too is I could query anything here. So this doesn't, I've been showing in both of these examples that this is connected with FileMaker, but you don't need to use FileMaker as any part of this. So if I go back to like my first flow, you could do a number of other steps in here. You could do, let's do an action where like you want to find a record. And watch as I quickly go through this. Say contact details, find query. So the query syntax in here is a little bit different because you have to put in a specific format. So you have to do something like first name, and you have to know like what the field is called. So it's actually first name with a space in it, or last name with a space. And then I can stick in that last name in there. So you do like a find request there. And we'll do that save. And let's say we want to review and test that. Invalid input. All right. Try to brute force it a little bit. Well, let me just, I'm going to go back and show you how it would look in a flow and not actually figure out each part of this. So let's say we were finding a record, and then I wanted to add some logic to that. So I would add an if. So I would say if find record, found a record, then I could do a record update. So let me just say like first name, Mike or something like that. And then under the if, I can take an action. So I could maybe execute an action when the condition is true, and I could say I want to edit a record and update it. And the record ID would be something that I found from my previous find record. All right. And then let's just say I could do the create record when that condition is false. So like if it didn't find that record, then I can now create it. So I don't think that there's a limit to the number of steps you can do in your flow. Another action is this stop action. So I can say that eventually, actually I'm not stop, I want pause. But let me see if I remember how to put this in here, the pause. Or it's the approval process. Yeah, so this is another thing that's pretty cool. So I can send an approval link out. Let me actually get rid of, I'm going to get rid of the step. Can I get rid of the step? Forget how to get rid of steps. Delete. Delete. So let's say I'm doing my create record just like I was doing before, and now I want to send an approval out. I want to say new user registered, and I want to send it to my own email address. And I want to say Virgie, and then the requester's name is going to be from my webhook. Put a space in there. Put webhook there. Don't need an attachment, and I want to say give it 3 days for approval. So what this is going to do, and then I should be able to reorder this. So I just clicked and dragged and I reordered it. So that webhook is now going to send me a request that somebody signed up. It's going to send me an email for approval before it creates the record in FileMaker. So that approval email is going to have a link. So let's kind of review this. So to set this up, I'm going to delete this record here out of the database. Go back to the contacts list view. And I'm going to go back to Postman, and I'm going to send myself that API, that webhook request again. So I'll send that. And in my history, there's now this one that's in here that's pending. So let me open up my email and see if that approvals email has come in yet. And it has. So here's that approval email. So I got this approval email from connect@claris.com. And I can actually give it a comment right here in the email. Use Claris Connect project to respond. Nice. So I can click this link here and it'll actually take me to a page where I can request. So this is pending. And I can say, yes, this is cool. And I can approve it from here.
I think there was an approval on the email as well toward the bottom.
There was, but it said it had special directions for Microsoft Outlook. So.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
It said if you use Outlook, go to this page. Probably because Outlook blocks their form from being filled in or something like that.
Gotcha.
So you can see that now that I approved it, now it added that contact in. So it waited for me to approve it. And if I go back to my flow and go back to my history now, it'll actually show me where that approval happened. Actually, that did it backwards, didn't it? Probably because I didn't save it. All right, so just in case, make sure I'm not saying anything that it can't do. I'm gonna send it again. I'm gonna show that it's not, history is pending again, which is right. And it hasn't created that contact. So now I'm going to go to my approvals again. I got another approval one. So it's going to manage my approvals. Still nothing in FileMaker. Yes, approve. And then bang, there it is in FileMaker. So now if I go here, back to my flow, it should actually be in the right order this time. 1:36 p.m., there it is, incoming request, new approval. And then, yep, there it is.
Gotcha.
So somewhere in here should be, there's my approver comment as well. So if I want to reference that comment in the record that I create in FileMaker, I can.
Hey, Mike, Eric had a good question. Can you branch off of that approval? So if they reject it, can you branch a different way?
Yeah. There should be in the approval, I'm sorry, I need to be in history. Response, status approved. So you can take this status and then you can do an if action, and you can say if status equals approved, do this, otherwise do something else, send an email or do whatever. So that logic and that decision tree for your flow follows all the way through. And you can put those pauses in here for a long time. So, I mean, approvals can last up to, I think it said like 7 days or something like that. So there can be flows that are pending, like currently active flows that are pending for a long time. Yeah, so there is a lot you can do with this stuff, and you can just keep chaining stuff together. There's data manipulation you can do in here. So if you want to like encrypt data as it's being sent through, you can do that. You can do mathematical calculations like adding up all the line items from an order to create an order record. The connected apps, they're in here. So you have like Amazon AWS S3 if you want to like send container data to Amazon, you could do that. You can trigger flows to happen from FileMaker as well. So from FileMaker. So if I'm running like a scheduled task in FileMaker and I want to run a script trigger to run like when I make a record change, there is a method for doing that. It gives you, it shows you how to set up your callback URL here. So it's got step-by-step directions for how to activate Claris Connect from FileMaker to trigger some sort of action. So the the way it nests with FileMaker, the way it integrates with FileMaker is great because it's, being released from Claris, but you don't have to do anything with FileMaker specifically here. You can have flows that are just completely based off of other apps that you have. So if I wanted to set up my own API server that is like sending text messages through Twilio, I could do that. You would set up a webhook and then you would connect it to Twilio when you're done. So like I could set live demo here, and then I could just action it to use Twilio, send a message. So I would have to sign in here. But this is nothing to do with FileMaker at all. It's just an API that I set up in a minute to be able to send a text message based on an incoming request. So I could set this up and have like my request body be something different for a text message, then have it send out. So this is still all pretty new. So I suppose we're probably ready now to get into Q&A and wrap up stuff. So probably
can you go back to some of the functionality, some of the different things you can do as far as the steps?
Mm-hmm.
So you reviewed a few of them on top. Approval, we saw that. Calculations, pretty straightforward.
The things you've connected to are always going to be up at the top. So I've connected to Trello and Claris, so FileMaker.
Okay.
That's up at
so
the top.
Username, password, and do you do that through Claris Connect?
You do. So
okay.
It's when you go back to your project, you're going to have connected apps up here. So if I delete my Trello, it's being used. If I reconnect my Trello, let's try this. It does the OAuth authentication between Claris Connect and whatever service in this pop-up window. And all you have to do is authorize it and usually hit allow. Every service has their own little custom page that shows up inside of there.
Gotcha.
But once you've connected something, it just stays connected. It's available.
So I'm curious for a flow for us. We send out in DocuSign. It looked like there was a DocuSign app down there that you could get into. We send out a new client profile for folks to fill out, and then when they fill it out, it could actually enter them into. I saw QuickBooks there, so it could automatically enter them as a new client in QuickBooks, and then I also saw HubSpot, which they could be put in there. And then in theory, we could, can you create a new board in Trello with it?
Yeah, you can create boards with Trello.
Awesome. And there's Slack to create the channel. There's Stripe when they pay. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Board. Yeah, okay, awesome. Awesome.
And you can customize each one. I'm not sure you can clone a board, but
yeah, I wanted to just slow down a little bit in the scroll so that folks could see like all the actions and all the apps that you can connect to now.
So aside from you've got your connected apps at the top, then you've got a set of things that are called utilities. Utilities don't have to do with a specific service, other people's software, any of these other services. These are utilities that only live inside of Claris Connect. So when I converted my script response from FileMaker into JSON, I was using this JSON utility to do that. But I've also got other utilities in here that I can use. So there's, you can do some basic level file conversion. You can OCR documents in here, like extract text out of a PDF.
Wow.
That kind of stuff. So each utility itself is pretty powerful and has its own things you can do. Now remember, each one of these steps is just designed to take some information, do some stuff with that information, and then send that information on to the next step until it's done. So this stuff is designed to take some information, process it, and then pass it on to the next step. Then you get down to the connected apps, and this is where Claris is investing more time. So when it first released in, what was it, March of last year or something, it didn't have all of these services. They've been slowly adding additional services on here. So they've got like what they consider tier 1 services like HubSpot or Salesforce or QuickBooks. Then they've got like second tier services, which are similar apps, but less popular. So like DocuSign is like the tier 1 app, and then CloudSign is like the tier 2 app. So they're going through from and then like Freshdesk is like tier 2. So they're adding more and more of these services on a pretty much like a monthly or bi-monthly basis. There's other stuff in here you can do, like MySQL is a good one to have because it allows you to dump stuff into like web databases. They've got Particle in here, so you can do IoT stuff. Like if you've got guys that play around with like sensors and Arduinos and like building their own physical hardware to interact with Claris Connect, you can do that. Some of these I've never even heard of before. Like I have no idea what PubNub is or Wufoo. It's been forever. They've got some coming soon stuff in here. So like they've got Zero in here now that's coming soon. Microsoft Teams coming soon. So that's another thing that we use at Mainspring that maybe we could integrate with. Yeah, so as they add more services, this library will continue to grow. So if you're looking at like some of the competition, like Zapier is what most people think of. Apps that work with Zapier. So Zapier has like over 2,000 apps. So they have, if you can think of an app, they've probably got it integrated with Zapier. But Zapier works in the same way. It's flow-based programming with if this, then that logic. But you know, you can, I'm not going to go into like a pricing comparison or whatever. Both of them are charged services. I already said the best selling point for Connect is that it's, you know, easier to use than some of those services, and also the FileMaker integration puts it far ahead. Like Zapier doesn't have a really great FileMaker connector for it. So yeah, so like as Claris Connect continues to grow, it will add more and more value to that platform. So like as these continue to get added service-wise, we'll be able to do more and more with this. So one note about their pricing is that Claris actually modified the pricing for it. They made it a little bit cheaper right after they first released it based on